Hey admins, how we doing out there? Week after the Indiana Moose Association convention, and we all survived it. It was a good time. We did have 385 delegates, so we're inching back up to those pre-COVID numbers. Once we get back to about 450, we used to weigh between 400 or 450 to 500 um, at fall state convention. We usually have a few more there than we do during the mid-year, the spring conference. So hopefully we're getting back to those numbers and we're going to get back up there again. Some things were talked about, um, open to the public type situations, and we will be covering more of that very soon, and we will have a document going out explaining more of that. But what we're doing this video is mostly talking about fellowship recommendations because it's that time of the year. Um, we've had people asking already. We get the qualifiers normally late October, and naturally we got it right on Thursday or Friday of convention. We will have them out in the next, if not today, tomorrow for Indiana. Again. Jesse Germany is doing his up north. I'm doing mine down south. This video is going out to cover the entire association, but I want to make sure we're covering the actual documentation. Um, there's a few things. So when we're sending this information, which we'll be sending in an email link to the lodges, the administrators will be getting that information and passing that on to the fellowship committee. Again, that should be made up of fellows and pilgrims in the lodge. And when it comes to the voting, submitting, and signing on the documents, if you don't have enough fellows and pilgrims in the lodge, you can use lodge officers that are men. So in the past, when we had men administrators who weren't fellows, they had to pass all that information on. The administrator is just a information conduit on this situation here. So we do have women administrators out there. They are allowed to see this part. This part is not secret in any way. The qualifications on here aren't secret. That's been published. Who can qualify is not secret because any admin can look that information up on there. What is secret is once the nominating committee chooses who they want to recommend. And again, them recommending does not mean that person's necessarily going to be awarded a fellowship. They're just making a recommendation. But that recommendation is private. The people having their names put in should not know that they're having their names put in. We don't want anybody to think that they're getting one because they've been nominated and then not get it and be mad. So the requirements for anybody being nominated is completely top secret. They should not be in the meetings. They should not know they're being nominated. Because again, we don't want hard feelings. We do want to make sure that admins, doesn't matter who you are as an admin, that the information you receive is basically kept private when it's handed over to the nominating committee. We don't want anybody to, again, say anything they shouldn't and offend somebody for not getting a nomination in the future. I also want to remind fellows and pilgrims that are doing the recommendations, they should not be discussing it because discussing it and it getting out could cause you to lose your fellowship or pilgrim because, again, this is once who's being nominated, and that information going forward from that part of the process is confidential and no one should know about it. So admins, if you are seeing this video, and if the someone on the fellowship committee has a question, feel free to forward this link to this video to them so they can kind of watch it and understand. But we're going to go through the process here. So in the email the lodge will be getting, they'll be getting the copy of the recommendation packet, which was already mailed to all lodges on, I believe, the 10th. It's a 7-page document. I only have a black and white copier, so this page right here is actually colored in the email attachment. But I'm going to attach it again just in case the admins didn't have that link or misplaced it for whatever reason. Also in that link will be the members of the lodge that have qualified for consideration for a fellowship. Doesn't mean they get one. So we're going to go through this real quick and kind of go through it. So the first page is information that all needs to be filled out. I do recommend reading every page carefully because we have lots of lodges that are, the committees are filling some information out incorrectly or leaving something blank, and it's causing people to not get their fellows. The first 5 pages of this is the form that will be returned. The last 2 pages are instructions, and again, I encourage you to read these instructions very, very carefully. The original will have to be filled out and sent back in as original with original signatures. You can't send copies of this. You can't send it through the email. It has to be signed by everybody on here, and then mailed the old-fashioned way to your territory manager. If you don't have your territory manager's address, it is on the state officers list to find that. So it's easy to find, shouldn't be difficult. If you can't find it, send your territory manager a text and say, hey, I can't remember where I put your address. Give it to me again. On this first page, you're basically putting in the basic information on the individual you're recommending. Then it's going to be recommended by. There's 4 slots on here of the committee who's recommending them, whether they're a fellow or not. And of course, it doesn't say on here pilgrim, but pilgrims are considered fellows. They're higher. They can be on here as well. If the lodge does not have, again, enough fellows and pilgrims to equal 4, you can use the rest of your male officers in the lodge. So let's say you had a pilgrim and a fellow, that would be 2. Then you could use your president and a treasurer or whoever. If they're men officers, have them sign off on that. So as long as you have 4. Then the rest of this section is for territory manager and for the Moose International use. Something I do want to make sure, and I'll put it in the email as well, that we need to understand if a lodge does not get any qualifiers, before you call complaining about Bob Smith should have got one, I know one, he's been a Moose Legionnaire for years, blah 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 blah. The 4 basic things that have to happen for someone to even be considered a fellow is listed on this page. You should do your due diligence and make sure these 4 things exist first before you contact your territory manager complaining and saying someone deserves to get one and isn't on that list, because there's a couple that are always hiccups that people miss. So the very first qualifier on here is that he must have completed 5 years continuous membership in the Moose on his current active membership record, and 3 years if he's a charter member. We don't have any charter lodges, so that's not an issue in Indiana. So he has to have 5 full years. You can't have a half a year here, 2 years there, half a year there. It's got to be 5 years. Completed 5 continuous years, by the way. He must have completed 1 full year in the Moose Legion. Here's a couple ones that people kind of miss up on sometimes. So he must have sponsored 5 or more applicants during his lifetime into the Moose. So into the lodge, he must have sponsored 5 people, and at least one between May 1st of this year, 2023, and September 30th. That catches a lot of people. So he's had to have recently in this year basically sponsored somebody. They have made one caveat, one change to that. If you are in the 25 club, they will waive that and you'll be automatically qualified for that section. And then the other thing that a lot of people miss, he must have sponsored 1 Moose Legionnaire in his career. So sometime as being a Moose Legionnaire, he must have sponsored someone into the Moose Legion as well. That seems to trip up people every now and again. Those are the basic minimums to be considered for recommendation. Then the committee must determine whether or not he's done 7 out of the 15 questions on this questionnaire. He must have a yes. And I will explain that they are very adamant about this. Some of these things that ask for more detail, yes is not sufficient enough. There must be more information. So some of these, like, is he a member of the 25 club? That's a yes or no question. Doesn't need any more questioning to it. But then when it gets down to has he volunteered as a cook, dishwasher, server, etc. over a period of several years? Don't just push yes. Don't put just yes and does dishes. Needs to be more specific. Bob Smith, for several years on Tuesday night, has always washed dishes in the kitchen during bingo, or has showed up every Saturday night for steak night. Has cooked our steaks for multiple years. It's not a he did wash dishes one time. You need to be detailed. Not giving enough answer will get them disqualified. Also, on the last section, because the wording's gotten bigger, something there's a little bit smaller section at the very end asking you to put in what he's done above and beyond as a Moose member. I recommend putting on adding another page of basically his resume. Yes, you can include his page of officer history and chairperson history, but that's not enough. If they're going to get a fellowship, the lodge, somebody has got to put out some more information on him. Bob Smith has always done this in the name of the Moose. He's been a officer for several years. He's helped maintain the landscaping, or he comes in and mops the lodge hall after every time we have an event in the lodge hall. But you need to be detailed on that. Don't just skim over it, because they will not get accepted on that. Excuse me. Also, when we're talking about their career, what they've done for the Moose, it doesn't matter what other volunteering they've done for other organizations. So if they go and work Little League but has nothing to do with the Moose, that's nice that that person does it, but it doesn't count. It needs to be in the name of the Moose. So let's say that every fall that person goes down and a group of Moose members do Salvation Army, and they do it in the name of the Moose. That's something credited for the lodge. If the lodge sponsors a van to take people to the VA, that counts. But if he works for a different organization, and once a month goes drive somebody to VA, that's not in the name of the Moose. That doesn't count. On here also was a timeline, and I need to get to it here. Hang on. Oh, wait, before we get to the timeline. On the last page is when the Fellowship Recognition Committee met and their attendance roster. We need to make sure, and this has to happen this way, that they print their name, they put their Moose ID number, and then their signature. Can't have it all looking like it's the same person filling it all out. Can't be typed out. Has to be handwritten. Again, we do ask that they print as clearly as possible so we can read it, especially their MID number and their printed name. If they have trouble with the printed part, if someone helps them, that's fine, but it should still have their signature on there so we can figure out who it is and make sure they're unique individuals in good standing with the Moose Legion and are fellows or pilgrims, and count on that. So that, again, that needs to be filled out. This whole section needs to be, the first 5 pages needs to be mailed, again, the old-fashioned way, and the timeline is on here. My fingers just aren't working so well today. And the deadline is December 8th. So they have to be postmarked by the post office by December 8th, just like your taxes on April 15th. If it is not postmarked by the 8th, they will not be accepted. We had to turn people down last year because they were sent in a week late for whatever reason. Someone said, well, we thought we had the wrong date. It's clearly stated on here, December 8th. I'm not looking at the calendar right now, but I bet that's a Friday. And for nominating people as well, we will put a list in there that shows you how many nominees you get for your lodge, but it's a very simple formula. For every 400 men members, you get to nominate a fellow if you have any qualifiers. So first of all, you have to have qualifiers, and then if you have more than one qualifier, between 0 and 400 members, you get to nominate one person. From 401 to 800, you get to nominate 2 people. I don't have any lodges in Indiana that are higher than 801 male members. So at the max Indy Lodge in Indiana is going to do is just 2 members. Most lodges are just going to be 1. If you have any questions on that, please contact your territory manager. Again, we should have these out probably definitely to all lodges by Wednesday evening at the latest. I went 15 minutes, so that's pretty long for me. I do apologize. Y'all have a good week. We'll see you next time. Bye.